Supervisor Gray, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Certainly. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Ryan, will you please share the public participation procedures for today's meeting?
In order to protect public health and the safety of our Tuolumne County citizens, this Board of Supervisors meeting will be physically closed to the public. During the board meeting, citizens who wish to comment should be prepared to use our call-in line at 209-533-6581 to queue for verbal public comment. Public comment will be open and closed individually for each agenda item listed below. If you wish to comment on a specific item, please call in when the board clerk has read the item. The chair will ask if there are any comments from the public, and at that time, your call will be taken in the order it is received. The public comment time limit on each item is set for 3 minutes per speaker. The time limit does not apply to staff. Options for public access, audio and video live streaming. The public will not have access for public comments through these media. These are available for audio and visual only. One is the Tuolumne County website, www.tuolumnecounty.ca.gov/745/board meetings. Option number 2, access Tuolumne County at www.accesstuolumne.org, clicking Watch Live. Or number 3, via Zoom webinar. You can do so using your computer, https://zoom.us/j/987-3738-5155, or you can call in at 1-669-900-9128 with webinar ID 987-3738-5155. Please note, the Zoom webinar services tend to have a reduced broadcasting delay in comparison to the county and access to Tuolumne live streams, and is suggested for the closest to real-time viewing and listening.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Important public notice under the Governor's Executive Order N2520. This meeting will allow members of the Board of Supervisors to participate by teleconference, and under Order N2920, accessibility requirements. If you need swift special assistance during the board meeting, please call 209-533-6581.
Thank you. And at this time, we are going to do oral communications followed by staff reports and consent calendar before we go to our 9 a.m. appointment so that we can get staff back to their offices. So at this time, I'd ask if there is any oral communication. There is no oral communication. All right, then we will move to staff reports. Do we have any staff reports?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Eric Earhart. How do we turn this on? Are we on now? You're good. All right. Good morning, Eric Earhart, County Administrator's Office. This is an exciting day for us. For the first time, I think Tuolumne County will have a full-time OES coordinator. And it's my pleasure to introduce Dory Beats. Many of us have come to know her over the years, whether it was at the rim fire, another fire, some weather incident, or even talking about cell phone towers. She has served the Tuolumne Band of Miwok Indians for the last 12 years as their planner and emergency manager. And she's been an instructor for numerous certificates, whether it's FEMA or the California Specialized Training Institute. Working with Dory's always been a pleasure, and I knew she had a lot of experience, but I had the pleasure recently to look at her resume and see all the different training she has. So she definitely comes to us with a plethora of knowledge, and she'll be able to hit the ground running. So again, we're very excited to have her join our team. And here's Dory Beach. She starts tomorrow morning. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Board of Supervisors and all the staff. I am completely, I got to go in here. Honored and really excited. Tomorrow will be a fun day. They've already got me calendared, all kinds of stuff. So, and even Liz and I coordinated colors today without even talking. So that's how great minds think alike. So I look forward to working with all of you, and it's going to be an exciting time and in a busy year. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dory, for taking the job.
No worry, thank you very much. I'm glad you're aboard. And did you really use the word plethora?
I did.
I love that word.
I do too. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Dory, before you leave, you can't see the huge smiles under these masks. Just a fantastic score for Tuolumne County.
Yeah.
I think that all of our surrounding counties are envious of you in this position because you're
Yes,
so
yeah, Tracy now has moved her.
dedicated to, all things emergency services. And
Yeah.
so, thank you. And boy, Tuolumne County is going to be greatly served by your addition. So welcome.
I'm excited, thank you. Thank you all.
Okay. I'm looking out to see if there are any other staff reports. Before I move on, I do want to actually comment and, again, share a abundance of gratitude and thank you to Gabe Peterson, Kunjan, all of the IT facilities, Heather, so many individuals were instrumental in looking around and the changes that have been made to this board chambers in the last couple of weeks. And so again, I think it was long overdue, and this is going to service the community better. It's about folks being able to have access and see and be connected. And so thank you. I know you guys have put in a lot of long days to accomplish all of this in 2 weeks, and greatly appreciate it, and I hope the public appreciates it likewise with greater connectivity and access. Okay. With that, will you please read the consent calendar?
Approving the minutes of the November 3, 2020 and November 16, 2020 meetings. Number 2, approving subcontractor agreement between Amador-Tuolumne County Action Agency, ADCA, and the Tuolumne County Health and Human Services Agency, HHSA, for homeless housing assistance and prevention assistance program services, authorizing the HHSA director to sign the agreement, amendments, and all related documents. Number 3, approving amendment number 1 to the agreement with Tuolumne Utilities District for the transfer and charges of water and sewer facilities service to the jail detention center and authorizing the county administrator to sign. Number 4, approving the removal of Scott Garrison and Leonard Pagney from their Behavioral Health Advisory Board appointments due to non-attendance, and direct the clerk of the board to send letters of appreciation and post a notice of vacancy. Number 5, adopting Resolution 104-20 for signature delegation to the District Attorney for California Office of Emergency Services Child Advocacy Center, KC program, request for application. Number 6, approving the transfer of Caitlin Hansen to the open public agency position and the appointment of Crystal Cox to the discretionary appointee position for a term to expire on June 30th, 2020 for the Child Care Council. Number 7, consideration of approving a lease with PHI Air Medical Services, LLC, at Columbia Airport in the amount of $1,621.73 per month, authorizing the board chair to sign. Number 8, accepting the certification of results for the November 3, 2020 presidential general election.
Okay. Would any member, I see Mr. Earhart.
Yes, good morning. Again, I'd just like to point out on item 7, the lease with PHI, there was some working with county council and PHI last night. We did make some additional changes to this lease. It's under item 10, which deals with indemnification. And the purpose of those changes was to increase protections for the county as well as PHI. And you have a copy of that on the dais in front of you.
Thank you. With that, I'll ask if any member would like to pull an item. No, and is there any public comment? There's no public comment.
Move on staff recommendation.
Second.
I have a motion from Supervisor Rotifer, a second from Supervisor Gray. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much. Okay, Ms. Ryan, will you read our 9 a.m. presentation?
Presentation and planning status update to the novel of the novel coronavirus.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'm going to take this mask off a little bit because I'll fog up my glasses and I'll be blind. So I'm going to be slightly naughty just for a second. Ms. Creo, Ms. Riggs, my name is Rebecca Espino, Health and Human Services Agency Director. It has been 4 short weeks since our last COVID update. Today's presentation will show the significant changes that can occur in a very short period of time and highlights the aggressive behavior of this horrible disease. But rest assured, during the past 9 months, and especially during the last 4 weeks, your public health team has not wavered in their dedication and commitment to keep our community safe. Your board and this community is served by a team of competent and brilliant public health professionals, and I'm so very proud of every single one of them. Again, what cannot be stated enough is the appreciation that we have for Dr. Surgenko, because I can't think of anyone better to guide us during this difficult time. Before I hand over this presentation to Dr. Surgenko, I want to give a shout out to our Auditor Controller, Debbie Bautista, our Human Resources Director, Ann Fremd, our County Counsel, Sarah Carrillo, and all the employees in numerous county departments who answered my plea for help when the number of positive cases were more than we can handle. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone, for your help.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Board. Eric Surgenko, Interim Health Officer. It has been almost a month since we've last updated the board, and as Rebecca indicated, there has been a great deal of change. I will say this is the first time that the staff has trusted me with the keyboard, so we'll see how it goes. And also the new electronics is really cool. So again, we last presented to the board on the 2nd of November, and we pulled data as of yesterday, the 30th of November. And in that time, there have been over an additional 4 million positive cases in the United States and over 300,000 in California, crossing the million barrier. In Tuolumne, what we've seen in this time frame is an explosive growth in cases with over 700 new cases since the 2nd of November. We have currently 213 active cases. Over 800 have recovered successfully. However, we have had, as of when we made this slide, 8 deaths, and we've added an additional death, unfortunately, since these slides were finished last night. As of last night as well, we had 12 hospitalized cases of Tuolumne County residents, of which 10 of those are at Adventist Health Sonora. If we look at our dashboard, again, a visual...
Dr. Surgenko?
Sir.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat the statement about the total number of deaths?
Yes, sir. So in the slide, it indicates there's a total of 8, as on the snapshot as well. However, we had another resident of Tuolumne pass last night at Adventist Sonora. So again, looking at this, what I would draw the board's attention to is the cases by date of report, which are the red bars, and you can see that explosive growth starting pretty much the 7th of November, but continuing through this day. Days wax and wane, but overall continuing growth through that period. As we look at, another way of looking at it is what's called episode date, that is either the date of testing, if they're asymptomatic, or the day of onset of symptoms. It smooths that jaggedness out a little bit, but we can still see a tremendous continued growth starting at the beginning of November and continuing through to today. Again, that reflects statewide as well. As I mentioned several slides ago, we're currently looking at 1.2 million positive cases. That continues to increase day by day. As you can see, that's exponential growth in that growth curve. Similarly, we're seeing a growth in deaths, but typically, as I've mentioned to the board before, the change in deaths occurs about 1 to 2 weeks after we see the increase in cases. So we can anticipate that the number of deaths will continue to climb as the positive cases have as well. That has reflected in our tier assignment. Again, referring to the blueprint for a safer economy, there are the 4 tiers ranging from yellow being the least restrictive to purple being the most restrictive. And during the time between the 2nd and today, we were moved into the purple tier. Equally, we have seen most counties move into the purple tier, with only Sierra being in orange, and then another handful of counties being in the red. And then we are anticipating some more changes today as the state recalculated numbers yesterday. As a reminder, this is a list of what is not available in purple, but I'm not going to go into detail of that. Rather, I draw your attention to the numbers that are underneath Tuolumne County, and the widespread description is that we are averaging about 44 new cases per day, and we're looking at a 10.7% positivity rate. That rate itself is the 5th highest in the state, and at one point we were the highest test positivity in the state. When we made these slides last week, we were the 3rd highest, and thankfully we're down to the 11th highest. And I think that reflects our ability to get a second lane open at OptumServe at the testing site at the fairgrounds. What we were seeing is that people were opting, following our message when we were straining for testing resources. They opted not to go until we opened that lane, and so we've had only symptomatic people showing up, and now we're having more people who are testing for prevalence. And so that's a good thing, and that keeps our testing positive around, so it reflects the prevalence in the community. We have requested assistance because of this growth in cases from the state for case investigation and contact tracing. We've had 4 case investigators and 6 contact tracers join us from the state virtually, and they're helping us via a program called CalConnect. So a little more detail on the cases in Tuolumne County. About 4 out of 5 cases have reported symptoms. And again, that's a change when we were earlier on seeing more asymptomatic cases, and that reflects, again, sort of a shifting towards people with symptoms getting tested versus prevalence testing. About 13% of cases are known contacts of people who are COVID positive. And again, we're using a system called CalConnect. As we delve into that more, we may be able to make more connections to people who are COVID positive and make those links identifiable. We're doing a deeper dive into our hospitalization data. That's being done with the assistance of the Yosemite Gateway Area Coordination Team epidemiologists. As mentioned previously, when these slides were made, we had 8 deaths. We currently have an additional 1 on top of that. And then I know an ongoing question is ICU admissions. That moves back and forth as people get better, get well, or move. Again, in some cases, we had a case that had completed their isolation period and then got markedly worse respiratory conditions, so actually moved from being at home to being in the ICU. So it can go in both directions. As we look at our cases over the past month, not really a lot of change from what we've described previously, but we are seeing clusters of cases amongst workplaces, especially with people not staying home when they're sick. We've had gatherings of multiple households, some travel associated, again, outside of California, travel to places with higher prevalence even than we're at. As mentioned, about 13% have known contacts. We have had at least 2 healthcare associated clusters amongst healthcare workers, and then again household clusters. But the most concerning to us is, again, community transmission, where we cannot identify where that case acquired their disease from. I'd like to spend a little bit of a moment talking about surge and surge planning. And surge is, again, something that is occurring right now in Southern California, and that we can anticipate without significant mitigation activity to occur in the Central Valley and even radiate up into Tuolumne County. As of yesterday, there was about 1,900 ICU patients that were COVID positive. That is an increase of 5% from the prior day. Same for hospitalization patients overall, about a 4% increase. And then as we look at that last graph, that is, varying from day to day as we open up ICU beds, close ICU beds. But as you can see, a downward trend in available ICU beds overall throughout the state, with the concern being expressed yesterday that if we have this continued trend, we may be out of available ICU beds in the state of California by the end of the month. Looking at some modeling that's available to us through a program called CalCat, they do a 30-day window for surge modeling. They last ran their model based on our cases on the 27th of November. And so if we look at that, these are not a total number of cases like you see with an epi curve, but rather number of patients hospitalized per day. And so currently, based on when they did the snapshot, we had 10 patients hospitalized with 84 available beds. They project, again, without any interventions, that on the 27th of December, we would see 33 Tuolumne residents hospitalized, and that wouldn't necessarily be at Adventist Health. It would be anywhere within the region that we'd have those patients hospitalized. However, that directly informs how many beds we would need to have likely available here. What the model doesn't tell us is how many of those patients will require ICU level care versus step down versus medical surgical beds. So we have been working with the Adventist Health team, with our EMS and state agencies to build that capacity. We've had able help from the OES team with Tracy and Liz. So we've been recruiting for disaster health volunteers, thinking about how we would repurpose public health staff if needed. And then the state is building out a team of 280 nurses that can surge to ICUs or medical surgical beds to augment existing staff. I know that we had talked previously about setting up an alternate care site, but I really feel that at this point, in discussions with Adventist Health, they have plenty of available, I shouldn't say plenty, they have available beds that are unstaffed. The intent would be to use staff from public health, from the disaster health volunteers, and from the state to augment Adventist Health staff in staffing those beds. Yes, we can.
So we talked a little bit about testing, but we wanted to provide a few more numbers. As of this presentation, we've had a little under 17,000, so 16,994 county residents have been tested. We do still have testing at the Optum State site, Adventist Sonora, and local providers. As Dr. Surgenko mentioned, we did get an additional lane at our Optum State site, which now means that the state site is open it's open 7 days a week. So if you are looking for an appointment, there's much more appointment availability, especially Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays where our lanes overlap. And so if you are seeking to get tested, we recommend making an appointment ahead of time. That way you know you have a spot. We are also working, it's not on the slide, but public health is working on plans to support our public safety staffing and as well as our local school testing capacity by deploying our Binax Now rapid testing kits. Hopefully we'll have more updates on that, but we are looking for every avenue to support testing in our county, beginning with our rapid test that we have allocated to us from the state. Again, like Dr. Surgenko said, testing is an important part of our process. It allows us to identify the folks who have COVID-19 and to isolate them and to quarantine their contacts, which gives us a better idea of the prevalence of it in our community. So we highly encourage folks to go get tested as soon as they're symptomatic. Every 14 to 28 days if you work regularly with the public, and 5 days after you've traveled outside of the area or have met with others outside of your family bubble. There is a travel advisory out by the state, so we urge the public to consider only essential travel out of our area.
Hello. Your board has requested, as part of this presentation, for us to also discuss the non-medical effects of COVID. And today we're going to highlight the economic impacts of COVID through the lens of social services programs. Because as you will see, you will see the impacts are almost in real time when there is an event that affects our local economy. The numbers on this slide represents individuals in our community. So starting with our medical services, as you will notice, within 1 month of the March shutdown, almost 500 additional residents needed health insurance. Now, this could be attributed to a reduction in hours, but more likely it was a loss in job. In June, although some of the business sectors began to reopen, the need for health insurance continued, which shows that, as folks were able to go back to work, the availability of health insurance probably was no longer available to them. What remains unknown is the impacts with our county moving to the purple tier. So that is an unknown for us at this point. Moving to our food assistance programs, similar to the medical assistance, the food assistance program had a spike the month after March, but what was interesting, it quickly improved in June when some business sectors began to reopen. But we believe that it was not because so many businesses reopened. We really believe it was attributed to the unemployment benefits, especially the extra $600 that folks were getting per week. And with that extra income, many individuals that were receiving food assistance benefits no longer qualified. Again, we don't anticipate a spike moving into the purple tier, a spike in November because we moved into a purple tier, but what we are very concerned with is a spike in January when the additional unemployment benefits end on December 31st. So we anticipate and are preparing for a substantial spike in folks needing food assistance. And lastly, although social service is not the holder of our unemployment statistics, what we do have is the number of public assistance beneficiaries receiving unemployment. So as you will see, in the month of April, we had 282 people receiving unemployment, and very quickly in September, that rose to over 1,000 people. As mentioned earlier, there is an inverse relationship with the number of people receiving unemployment and the number of people receiving food assistance. So the higher the number of people receiving unemployment, the need for food assistance has decreased. Again, that we believe that number in January will possibly go down of the number of people receiving unemployment. But again, we do anticipate a substantial spike in folks needing food assistance. And what's not on the slide is receiving possibly cash assistance. Next slide, please. As you have seen in the previous slide, many members of our community are experiencing an economic impact due to COVID. Your social services department has numerous programs available to assist. So in addition to the medical and food assistance programs I previously mentioned, there's also homeless programs for our families and in-home supportive services for our elderly and disabled. You can apply online, don't even have to come into our office, through our see4yourself.com website. You can also call and make an appointment, or you can call and do a phone interview. And the least preferred method, but absolutely available, is in person, visiting us at 20075 Cedar Road North, and you can apply in person. Thank you.
So just to wrap things up a little, we know there were a lot of changes to different business sectors as we moved into the purple tier. As always, for businesses seeking technical assistance, they can email us at health@tuolumnecounty.ca.gov or visit the TC Disaster Assistance website. The business reimbursement program is still available, from my understanding, through the CAO's office. So for businesses that may need extra supplies to get through purple tier and make those modifications, they are encouraged to call and seek information about that program. And as always, our communications remain the same. We maintain our data dashboard on a daily basis. We are aware of some errors on there with regard to demographics, and that is getting changed this week. We also have our Facebook page and, as always, our call center. So if you need to get a hold of us, the information is there on the slide. And then the last one is just, as always, I will pass it over to Dr. Shajenka.
And I think this is a message we all know and can all carry forward, is, again, encourage everyone to adhere to the wearing of a face covering. certainly maintaining a distance of 6 feet, if at all possible. Stay inside your bubble, within your household as much as possible. And as Christina said, limiting travel, and which is a difficult decision to make coming up to the holiday season. Wash your hands, increase cleaning of those high-touch surfaces. Stay home if you're sick. If you do test positive, isolate as instructed, and if you're a known contact, quarantine as well. And then, as we always say, get tested. So pending your questions, that is the end of our report.
Just on the last slide that you have up, if you could put it back up again. Is it safe to say that if people would abide by these recommendations, that we could lessen the spread?
Yes, I think that's, one of my messages that I've carried pretty much consistently for at least the last 6 months, when the face covering guidance changed from symptomatic people to the general population, when we recognized that asymptomatic transmission can occur, is, those washing your hands, watching your distance, wearing a face covering. If we adhere to those 3 W's, and then staying home when you're sick, and then avoiding unnecessary travel, we know that just taking those 5 actions alone would decrease transmission. If 100% of the population would do that, we would see it. And that's really, when I think about individual responsibility, that is really where it comes down to, is if we could get individuals to act on that and continue through that, then we would not have the state coming down and saying, shut down. I think the metaphor is when your only tool is a hammer, all your problems are nails. And that's kind of what we see with the state, is that if we don't take individual action, if we don't take individual responsibility, then things get imposed upon us. And those do work, but they're crude instruments.
Yeah, well, thank you. And it's a message I think that we keep putting out there. I know I do. And it's really pretty hard for me to understand that there's pushback on these basic things when we know that they will help us a lot. So I plead with the public out there to follow these recommendations, and maybe we can get a handle on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I agree with Supervisor Gray that the recommendations that we have before us are the path to curbing the spread and getting our numbers down. And just looking at the surge and the rate at which it's increasing, I think it's a very stark and unfortunate confirmation of what public health has been telling us all along, that this would happen. And here we are seeing it play out very startlingly similar to what was predicted by folks that have expertise in the area of communicable diseases. And kind of on the note of surge planning, in your presentation, you talk about preparing, working with the hospital and their capacity. So could you expand on that a little bit? What is the role that public health plays in finding, because from your statements, it sounds like the issue is not really the available beds and resources, it's manpower and it's staffing. And so what role can we play in working with the hospital in increasing that staffing and finding people to serve the people who are sick?
Right. So as mentioned on that slide, one role we serve in public health is we have what's called the Medical Health Operational Area Coordinator, or MOHOC for short. And that is the connection to our regional disaster medical system and requesting resources from the region and from the state. So that's one avenue for additional resources. The other avenue is using our disaster health volunteers and recruiting and retaining and getting those volunteers in place. And then the last thing I would want to do, and this is sort of an in extremis maneuver, is using our public health staff to occupy beds or to occupy staff positions within a hospital. And that's the least thing I want to do because I want to keep them doing contact tracing and isolation and quarantine. But they are trained healthcare professionals. So as we work with the hospital, what we need to have from them is sort of a sense of what they feel their gaps are in terms of staffing, both in terms of numbers and types of professionals, and then work with them on filling those with our available resources and then identifying any other additional gaps. And my concern, given this surge is not just happening in Tuolumne, is that we'll be competing for resources from the state level with every other county in the state, and that getting resources from outside the state is going to be difficult. I will put out as an example, San Luis Obispo requested 3 nurses to augment staffing in a nursing home. The state was unable to meet that request and pushed it out to the regions to see if the regions could fill it. Now, I don't know where that ended up at, but in that conversation, we found that most of the available state resources had already been addressing the surge in Southern California. So again, that gets to where we have to do those things that are on the screen right now to avoid the surge that we may experience here. I think the other thing that Supervisor Campbell, you and I have talked about as a side conversation is not just ICU hospitalizations or med surge, but the inevitable fact that some of those people who get hospitalized will die, and the need for mass fatality management. And that's something that we had addressed back in March and April, and we'll readdress with the sheriff coroner on their role in that.
Yeah, and I guess where I'm getting at with this is that we're seeing we're at an increase. We are currently in a spike in COVID-19 cases. However, we just had a week ago, a little less than a week ago, was Thanksgiving, and so 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, sometime within the month, infections from family gatherings, social gatherings related to Thanksgiving are going to start to presumably show up in our reporting. What can we do? And this is just kind of an in general question. Extrapolating out the surge that we're already seeing with additional surge related to Thanksgiving, what are we likely to see, and how can we prepare for it now, since we know that it's coming?
So the modeling is based upon what we would expect from Thanksgiving and based upon our exponential growth of cases. So again, building the staffing model around a surge of 33 COVID patients, and then what we really need from our healthcare system in terms of data is what's the normal level of hospitalization, not just in Tuolumne, but in adjacent areas. And so I think what we will need to do in the next 2 weeks is public health is work on how many beds do we really need to staff up for. And then as a general public, we do know that we've already got cases that were at gatherings over Thanksgiving, is that the next to last bullet and the one before that is if you do develop symptoms, don't generate secondary and tertiary cases. Don't allow it to propagate. Stay home if you're sick. And really, we do know that population mobility in general is a means of transmission. And so that gets back to, as we plan for Christmas travels, consider whether it makes sense to do that or not, and think about alternate means to visit with your family, whether that's via Zoom or GoTo, rather than visiting them in person.
Yeah.
Doc, are you done?
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Surgenko, one of the things, I watch the statistics daily, as you know. One of the things that it seems apparent to me, it's a little troubling to me beyond the surge, is that I'm seeing a larger proportion of the cases on a daily basis coming from our older age groups. The last several weeks, it's been predominantly in the 20-something, 30-something, 40-something, a little bit in the 50-somethings. But I've seen not a lot more numbers. Well, yeah, a lot more numbers. But when I look at the proportion of the cases in the 60s, 70s, 80s that are coming in on a daily basis, they're a higher proportion than they have been in the past. And I think when we start talking about the travel for Christmas and some of those things, you really need to think about it. Yeah, you want to be with your parents or grandparents for Christmas, but do you really want to take the COVID bug with you when you go there and possibly put someone that is in a high-risk group at an even higher risk? So it's just something that I think that if we focus on, the threat isn't as high to the 20, 30, and 40-somethings. If they get sick, they get sick. It could be a very miserable experience for them, but they're most likely to recover. But the elderly people may not. And I think that we need to consider that when we're considering our travel plans for the holidays. It's really important that we protect the people that are most at risk in this.
Yeah, thank you, Supervisor, for bringing that up. Is the pattern that we're seeing with transmission starting in the 20 to 50-somethings and then cascading into the older population is something that we see in other communities that have had the wave before us. And again, it points out that you really, as much as you want to protect the elderly, and that's about a third of our population, it's a hard thing to do because the 20 to 50 to 60-somethings are out there driving the economy. And no matter how well you protect your 70 and 80-year-olds, there's going to be some transmission from the younger population into the older population. So the pattern you're describing is classic and associated with that explosive growth that we have seen.
I just have a few comments, and then I do have a question regarding vaccines. I want to make it clear, I met with a few constituents since our last board meeting, and what I walked away with from one of the conversations was they felt like the board maybe wasn't unified in our message, and I don't know what board meetings they've watched or how many or where they're getting their information from, but I think our board is completely unified in the message that personal responsibility, wearing face coverings, maintaining the social bubble, the distance, doing all those things to help mitigate the spread. I look across at us, I don't think any one of us disagrees with that. So I just want to make that really clear. And just personally, I was talking to Supervisor Rutherford this morning. We were talking about one constituent who's a friend of ours who's in ICU. And I actually have a childhood friend that I grew up with whose father's in ICU right now with COVID. So as we said back in March, eventually this is going to hit us to where we're all affected. We all know somebody who is going to be sick, and we're entering that season. So I just want people listening to know that it's touching all of us, it's affecting all of us, and I think that's how we get to where we take it more serious, and we hopefully implement these mitigating factors in our own personal lives. And I think a month ago I had brought up, back in October, I brought up some information about the Midwest states. And a month to 6 weeks ago, they were all surging, going through that. And I said, I think you agree, Dr. Surjenko, like that's where we're headed because the cold season's coming, the flu season's coming, the colder temperatures, people are going to be coming indoors. And so we've now entered that area, and I think kind of like you said, the state has a hammer, and I guess my only, not disagreement with that statement, but I think just personally, that's where my disagreement is with the state, that I don't think the state was ever designed to be a hammer on society. And so I wish those parts weren't in place. They are. I just want to make it really clear to people listening, I believe our board is completely unified on what's in front of us right here, and it's personal responsibility, and we're going to have to take responsibility for those actions. And I am concerned about the surge because I think none of us wants to have a family member or personally get sick and develop symptoms where we need ICU, but then there's no space. And I think I can completely get behind that message where we have to protect the surge plan the best way possible with personal responsibility. With that being said, I do have a question regarding, vaccines in the news, and it's coming. Do we have a plan? Are we working on a plan in place to once it's available, to distribute it? How are we going to distribute it? What's the order? Is that something you guys are working on?
Right, so that there is so Tuolumne, the state, the feds all have a plan. And it's an adaptable plan because we don't know which vaccine will come out first. We can make some good guesses based upon both Moderna and Pfizer, which are what are called mRNA vaccines, have both been submitted for what are called emergency use authorizations. So those may be the two first vaccines that we see deployed. And then the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, which is an advisory committee to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, is meeting again today to kind of set up tiers. They've already discussed, and at the state level, we've looked at what tiers would be, how we would break down the population. I think I can feel comfortable in saying that our priority group through the state and then down to the county is going to be our healthcare workers. And especially people that have direct contact with patients. That would be the first group that would receive the vaccine, whether it be a Moderna, Pfizer, or something else. The question that's in front of the ACIP today is whether to include residents of long-term care facilities like skilled nursing facilities and residential care for the elderly in that same group, recognizing they're an at-risk population. So yes, we're planning for it. That said, the EUA itself, the emergency use authorization, will probably be a 2 to 3 week process. So we may, as early as the end of the year, start seeing vaccines available for healthcare workers, plus or minus those residents of a long-term care facility. And then going forward, we'll start seeing more and more vaccine become available. But honestly, I don't know that we will have a significant amount in the state or in the county for general population until we're well into March or April. So again, these measures that are on the screen right now need to be emphasized until a significant percentage of our general population has been vaccinated.
Is there anything we can do as a board to support that message? Because I'm sure we'll get our fair share, but will it be in the same time frame as more populous cities? Is it?
Yeah, so there is the intent to do equitable distribution of vaccines, especially for healthcare workers. But that said, the challenge may be actually in logistics. The Pfizer vaccine requires an ultra-low temperature freezer around -80 Celsius. Those are in limited number. So in doing the planning for that, for the Pfizer vaccine, we may be at the end of a spoke on a hub and spoke system and working out the logistics of that. The other thing is that it comes out, the minimum number of doses that you can order with the Pfizer vaccine is 945 doses. And so given what I know of the population of healthcare workers in Tuolumne, Mariposa, and Calaveras counties, we may be sharing that minimum order across the 3 counties, or at least 2 of the 3 counties. And so that, again, is a work in progress. Is, again, which vaccine are we going to get? How many doses can we order? It will be an issue of scarcity and allocating scarce resources for at least the first 4 months of the vaccine.
Thank you. So thank you for
Your mic's not on.
some of that explanation, because that is a point that I wanted to get to, because I hear it quite a bit in the public, is the vaccine's coming, and, a little bit of a more relaxed stance, if you will, with regards to all of these criteria. And yes, a vaccine is coming, but it's in a very small capacity. It's going to be some time before we have widespread application across our constituents. And so I just want to emphasize again, all of these, the face covering, the 6 feet, minimizing your travel, staying at home if you're sick, washing your hands, all of the things that you have said repeatedly this morning, how critical those are. because while we are all anxious for a vaccine to be widely distributed in Tuolumne County, we are months away from that at this point. So thank you for emphasizing that, and I'm hoping that there is a way to communicate that through our messaging as we move forward, because I think it's going to be important for the public to really be able to understand that and understand what some of that timing is, even though it's a work in progress, and I understand that. We know it will be a few months away before we have that widespread application. So with that, at this time, I'd like to ask if there's any public comment. There's no public comment on this item? Okay. Well, as always, we appreciate the information, and thank you for incorporating some of the other pieces into the presentation. I think it's helpful.
Drive safe.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. 9 minutes. Want to move through a couple more of these items before our 10 a.m. appointment. So will you please, Ms. Ryan, read item 9?
Consideration of approving an agreement with Dr. Medical Center of Modesto, Inc. for inpatient psychiatric services commencing November 1, 2020, not to exceed $300,000 for fiscal year 2020-2021, and authorize the county administrator to sign the agreement and then
Good morning, Chair, members of the board, administrator, and county council. Michael Wilson, Behavioral Health Director. And what I have before you is the consideration as mentioned for Doctors Behavioral Health Center. Behavioral health is responsible for acute psychiatric inpatient hospital services for eligible residents, including Medi-Cal members. The department makes every attempt to maintain individuals at the lowest level of care, but on occasion, there are individuals who require placement in an acute psychiatric hospital. BH contracts with several psychiatric inpatient facilities, the majority of which are located in Central and Northern California. Effort is made to contract with the hospitals closest to Tuolumne County for the benefit of the patient and their families, and to foster improved engagement in local community resources. Doctors Behavioral Health is the closest psychiatric facility. California's Department of Healthcare Services, DHCS, requires that counties enter into contracts with facilities when there is consistent use to assure agreed upon rates and reimbursement. Doctors Behavioral Health Center is a 67-bed facility located in Modesto and is consistently used by behavioral health. Behavioral health has been contracting with Doctors Behavioral Health Center for inpatient services since 2008. Therefore, it is respectfully recommended that your board allow BH to contract with Doctors Medical Center of Modesto to best meet the needs of our clients. There is no fiscal cost to the general fund. This is covered by our realignment that we receive. The agreement will not exceed $300,000 per fiscal year. Again, the recommendation is, it is respectfully recommended that your board approve the agreement for acute psychiatric inpatient hospital services between Behavioral Health and Doctors Behavioral Health Center, commencing November 1st, 2020, not to exceed $300,000 per fiscal year 2020 to 2021, and authorize the county administrator to sign the agreement and amendments and all related documents.
Are there any board questions?
Just one, and I apologize for not giving a heads up on this, but how many patients do we treat annually, approximately?
With inpatient psych services?
Right.
Yeah, I would have had a heads up for that
Yeah,
one.
I know, but maybe just a ballpark. It doesn't, I'm just for the public's benefit to let them know.
Boy, we probably hospitalize someone every other day.
Okay. So it is quite a bit.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. And I do apologize for, sometimes I'm a little slow in the startup as far as thinking about things.
Yeah, and to be clear, the Department of Healthcare Services, there's an information notice similar to all county letters. The original was 18008 and was updated with information notice 20008 around our requirement to pay these services. So the contract is a nicety, and it helps us guarantee rates and reimbursement methods.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no other board questions, is there any public comment on item 9? There's no public comment on item 9, so I'm going to bring this back to the board.
I'll move on staff recommendation.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Supervisor Gray, a second from Supervisor Campbell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, thank you. We have a few minutes before our 10 a.m. appointment, and I think that item 10 will need more time. So, Ms. Peterson, let's do item 11. Will you please read item 11?
Consideration of recognizing the unanticipated revenue of $800,000 from the State of California Wildlife Conservation Board for the Rim Fire for Reforestation Phase 3 project and increasing appropriations in the Master Stewardship Agreement Cost Center also by $800,000.
Okay, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. In September of 2019, the county applied for a grant with the Wildlife Conservation Board to reforest in the rimfire footprint within the Tuolumne River watershed. And in May of 2020, we were notified that we were awarded the grant for $4,700,000. Just to provide any clarification, or in case you think that I am some great grant writer, it was actually the Tuolumne River Trust who wrote the grant. That is a part of their contract with the county that they do on behalf of the county. Not only do they manage our Master Stewardship Agreement projects on the ground, they also apply for grants on our behalf. So this project is a reforestation project, as mentioned, and it will be reforesting up to 6,434 acres. The funding, as we budgeted, will be a little over maybe 2,400 or so acres, but depending on how costs come in, and there's also some potential for some additional funding from some other sources, like American Forests have expressed interest in purchasing the seedlings. And so that would be almost $250,000 that would be that could go to additional acres, treating additional acres, as well as some other potential funding opportunities. So up to 6,400 acres of reforestation in the rimfire footprint. An RFP for the fuels reduction and site prep work has already been issued, and it's anticipated that planting will take place in the spring of 2022. Your board has already authorized the county administrator to execute all documents necessary to complete the project. However, the unanticipated revenue should be recognized by your board, and then I'm requesting appropriations in the Master Stewardship Agreement Cost Center be increased by your board. Reforestation is a multi-year process, so we do not anticipate that all $4,700,000 will be spent this fiscal year. We're estimating approximately $800,000 or so will be spent this fiscal year, and that's why we're only requesting your board increase appropriations by that much this year. And as mentioned, the revenue will go into the Master Stewardship Agreement Cost Center. So I am recommending or requesting that your board recognize the unanticipated revenue of $800,000 from the State of California Wildlife Conservation Board for the Rimfire Reforestation Phase 3 project and increase appropriations in the Master Stewardship Agreement Cost Center by the same amount. And just as a reminder, this takes a 4/5 vote from your board.
Okay, are there any board questions?
No questions. It's just amazing that this money keeps coming. Rimfire 2013. But if you've toured the forest, there's a lot of work that needs to be done out there. And I think we have the great partnerships. And I know you're not taking credit for this grant, but somebody's got to keep everybody together. So thank you.
Just to clarify real quick, so we have 4.7, but then that extra 800, so we're at 5.5 total, and then we're going to spend about 800 this year.
No, so we have 4.7 total, and we're only going to spend about 800,000 of it this fiscal
And part of that 4.7 is that additional 8.
Not
800.
additional. So a total of 4.7.
Okay.
Yeah, and then 800,000 of that 4.7 we're gonna spend
Gotcha,
this
I was
year.
just-
The rest we'll put into the budget in future years.
Cool, thank you.
Yep.
I would just highlight also that have been a succession of grants, efforts, monies. Some of it, I think, even was part of the initial HUD award, because this land has to first be cleaned, restored, and it's nice to see us at a phase where we're actually in the restoration phase. So thank all of the partners on behalf of this board. And I know there's a tremendous amount of effort that goes into seeing this through, from catastrophic fire to something that is a functioning forest again. So at this time, I'd ask if there's any public comment on this item. Seeing no public comment, I'm going to bring this back. I'm looking for.
I'll move on staff recommendation.
A second.
I have a motion from Supervisor Campbell, a second from Supervisor Rotifer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much. So before we read our 10 a.m. appointment, Ms. Ryan, will you please read the public participation procedures again for the public? And I'll give Mr.
If any member of the public would like to call in for public comment, they are requested to do so when the board clerk reads the item in order to queue, and then they will be available to give public comment once the chair has opened the public comment period. The phone number, again, to do so is 209-533-6581.
Thank you. And I do want to reiterate that the board does want to hear the public comment, but it is very important to try and call in when the item is read, so you're in the queue. And we have the opportunity to hear your comments, especially while the appropriate staff are still present. Ms. Ryan, will you please read our 10 a.m. appointment presentation?
Presentation and update by Innovation and Business Assistance Director Cole Prisvilla.
Good morning, board. Thank you for having me this morning. I wanted to add two things before we get started based on the update from Public Health this morning. There's a comment about unemployment. Just for your knowledge, it is at 8.3, and that's down from the height in April, which was 17.2 unemployment. The second portion was there was a conversation about things that are available for the public and the community in the form of financial assistance. And the Motherlode Job Training does have an $800 grant for anyone who has any current or past rent, car insurance, or past due or current utilities they need assistance with. So there is an application that is on the Motherlode Job Training website. If any of the community members are interested in it, they can reach out directly to Motherlode Job Training, or I could also help facilitate getting them more information. The final thing before I get started is I am going to pass your board a document that is online. I was going to pull it up so everyone could see it on where to download it, but if you're in the community, and I hope you download it, and that's why I'm actually doing it this way, it's at selecttuolumne.com. So selecttuolumne.com, there's a banner right up on top, and you can be able to download it. And so this presentation actually is now a forward-looking presentation. And what you have in your hand is an action plan. And today what I'm going to present is essentially the distilled version of your goals that we've always been discussing for the past year, what businesses have discussed with me that they need, and also the community's input. And so one thing to note is that this is not a comprehensive economic development strategy that we do with our regions next to us. So it's a larger document that consultants come on, and there's a lot of community input. There's also an economic development report that some communities do that they also hire a consultant. What this is a department action plan, and it's not a dead document. This is going to be adjusted, it's going to be talked about, and hopefully I do get some more community input and we make some changes. It's really just an assistance document for us. It's for you, it's for me, and it's also, I think, for the community to really understand what my role is, what's the department role, and how we're driving for outcomes and not necessarily actions and activities. So with that, I think there are 3 goals that we've discussed that this department needs to go after. And that's this idea of business assistance, which is the 3 pillars, the attraction, the retention, expansion. There's a second goal of innovation, which is really about community development. If we're running into issues that are hampering business in Tuolumne County, how do we fix it? And finally, the third is recognition. And this isn't necessarily recognition for me, it's recognition for Tuolumne County and our department and what we're doing for economic development. And so with that, in the action plan that hopefully everyone downloads and that you have in your hand, we have those overarching goals. So those are our 3 goals that we're going after. And then within those goals are what are the things that we're going to be doing. And so to explain, one of the first goals, again, is about business assistance. And so that first goal in our business assistance is retention and expansion. So what are we going to do to know Tuolumne County businesses? Well, we're going to continue compiling those businesses, hopefully implement a business license so that we can also have that information, direct contacts, who we are, what industries, and then also make sure we're talking to business organization members. The second one is connecting to resources. So those are making sure that businesses understand that we have access to zero emissions vehicles directors at GoBiz who are helping us find incentives and infrastructure for carbon credits for some of the changes that are coming in 2035 regarding electric vehicles. Make sure they understand about Cal Competes, Opportunity Investment Zones, and the PG&E economic development rate, which we've already had about 5 businesses apply, and about 2 to 3 that are already approved, which is really amazing. And make sure that we understand that we're partnering with our local chambers again, and make sure that we're putting up key data on our websites. And then that third goal is just purely outreach. And one of the things that I've been trying to really do, and unfortunately coronavirus has really hampered, but I'm making sure that we're doing at least 5 proactive calls. We have a call list now, and I call 5 random businesses just to see how they're doing, what do they need, and make sure they understand the different resources, including that business grant right now. And the goal eventually is to start implementing back some truly walk into business, like go in, shake some hands, say hello, have some personal conversations once that is safe. And really even making sure that we're connecting with the different unique sources in Tuolumne County, which is our visitor bureau, our realtor associations, maybe some HOAs, the Rotaries, arts organizations. Those are things that I'm doing currently and will continue to do it. And again, what I always like to say is I'm going to audit those impacts. So what are those goals? Did I do them, and analyze if it's working? And that's why I say this is not a dead document. So within that business assistance, again, there's this idea of attraction. And so one of the things we've put together is really understanding and putting together that idea of what is the comprehensive outreach, how do we deliberately target, what are we doing to use digital tools like a website, a podcast, our social media, our LinkedIn, and how are we utilizing partnerships like with the state association, the federal partners, and different business assistance programs. So again, now we went through the goal, which is business assistance. There's different portions of that goal, which are some of those actions. And then finally now, how are we going to take those deliberate actions? And so that's where now we're into this second role, which is the 1.2.1. I'm sorry, it gets a little cumbersome in trying to explain it. And so what we're going to do, the action item specifically, is have those deliberate targets. Who are we going to deliberately outreach to? We're going to have a timeline, a collateral of making sure we have all those materials, the websites, the postcards. And then we're going to analyze. And so to kind of explain, back in February, we had this idea of deliberately contacting specific industries, the hospitality, senior care, natural resources, manufacturing, and again, even distilled it down more, which is a private business with a board of directors able to make decisions without algorithms, right? And so we decided there's thresholds that we wanted, which were what kind of businesses are bringing wages that we're interested in, employment trends, what's their growth potential in our community, how do they fit into the community, is there county revenue potential? And so with that, I started to implement this idea of this deliberate contacting, which is I send a business owner that I find online that I think fits in with these thresholds for attractions. I send them a personal handwritten note because I still like, and I like the idea of getting a handwritten note. There's something you see it and you respond to it a little bit more, and there's a direct link, a link they only get. And so it goes to our Select Twomey website, and on the Select Twomey website, I have analytics for every single page. So I know where people come on, how long they spend their time on there, and what pages they're kind of going through the website. And so I have this idea of concept proof, and that is that in September, I sent a postcard, sent a lot of postcards, but I sent a postcard to a company in San Francisco, didn't get a response. I then sent an email, again with the exact same link. Within a few days, we have a response from exactly where I was expecting, but then I get to see what kind of pages they visited, and they were more interested in transportation and logistics on the website. So I was able to then follow up with a third email about specific things that I thought he would be interested in, about the conversation of what it would mean to have a natural resources business in Twomey County. And from there, we've gone back and forth, and there's actual interest from a biofuel company. So the point is that it's not just a fire hose of we're looking for any business to join Twomey County. It's I deliberately think, based on the thresholds that we've all come up with, that you're a business that would work in our community. And then I know what you're looking at because you went onto this website, and I know you're interested in quality of life and broadband, and I can directly tailor my next responses. And with that, the goal would be, let me see, make sure, that I analyze. And so with that analyze, my goal would be that I want a 25% response rate from 100 contacts that I'm making this year to direct, deliberate contacting. And with that, the next goal is innovation. And so this is the four goals that I think within innovation we should be going after, which is natural resources. Can we help make a supply organization or assist those businesses that are already in Twomey County get a more reliable rate and more consistent rate? Broadband, it's always a topic of conversation. Just to give you your board an update, I did apply for a $500,000 broadband roadmap grant through the Economic Development Administration and the CARES Act. While I can't say I have the final good news, is I have heard from the EDA, and it does look very positive. It's going through their process, and right now it's in the final stage of the lawyers to make sure the paperwork, I don't know how it all works, but I have, I think, good news coming. Finally, there's going to be an event in January. This is a very exciting event. It's for Twomey County businesses, but the rural regions and RCRC have really jumped onto it, and it's going to have a lot of resources for businesses, federal, state, and something that I'm really interested in, which is connecting rural businesses to urban businesses. And so there's these 3 different tracks. It's going to be a very interactive conference. It's almost like a Comic-Con where you can choose how long you're there, choose what kind of tracks, and there's also information for economic development directors like me, all in the hopes to showcase that Twomey County is on the head of virtual conferences and really not, we're technologically advanced, right? And so there's going to be presentations from a lot of different innovative ideas. There's going to be ways for businesses to connect directly to 4 to 5 experts in a private room to discuss their business. And then also abilities for businesses to network one-on-one with all the other attendees. Finally, I think we need to make sure we're thinking of innovative energy options. And this means, do we have opportunities for natural gas? Do we have opportunities to assist in the zero emissions vehicles realm with hydrogen? And then also this idea of a CCA, which is a community collective aggregate, which is something we've looked at to in the past. It didn't make sense, but with Liz Peterson and we've been looking back into it. And finally, that third goal, which is recognition. When I mean recognition, I mean our community understands and knows what our department's doing, what our county's doing, and what we're looking for in economic development. But then also increase outreach, which is making sure that the state understands what our county's looking for, understands that they can come to us to be a regional advocate, to make sure that they understand that we are the people to talk to when it comes to economic development for the Central Sierra. And finally, that also means the federal government as well. And with that, that is The action plan that I hope our community does read, again, it's on selecttuolumne.com. I blew through it because I knew we had a short amount of time today, and I wanted to make sure we had enough time for questions if you had it. But I do think that this is the path forward in really educating the community on what it is I do as a department, make it less ambiguous, but also really highlight that there is a lot of good work and ways to track what I do for your board. Questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, just the $500,000 grant, it's a great thing, and it's something that I'm sure we could use, but I think the public would be a little bit interested in how you anticipate using that $500,000.
Sure. So the $500,000 grant that I applied for through the EDA is actually a regional broadband roadmap, and so it'll cover 5 counties. And it'll allow us to really develop out of the broadband conference that was held in February. And what was decided and kind of essentially told to us from a community standpoint is that if counties wanted to make an effective push for more broadband infrastructure, we needed to make sure that our policies, our ordinances, and marketing or outreach to internet service providers showed them exactly what we needed or how they could get through the process. And so that's what we'll be doing. We'll be outlining all the different county processes across the 5-county region, including recommendations. It'll also cover priorities for each of those communities, so we'll have the chance to make sure in that document it understands what is Tuolumne County priority. Is it a certain community? Is it up in Pinecrest? Or is it a certain industrial zone? And including that, it'll also cover a lot of assets that we have. So the right-of-ways, what public infrastructure could an internet service provider use? How do you get through the CEQA and NEPA process? And also what kind of grants are available from the state and federal government? And the final piece of it is actually, it's not just a document that sits on a shelf. It's actually going to be a living, breathing website where an internet service provider can come and look at the map, kind of get the goal. The reason I say roadmap is a roadmap truly of understanding how to get through our 5 counties to get infrastructure in, hopefully to make it easier.
I'm sure we'll talk more about that later, but has this been done anywhere else, or is this a new process?
So the way that we're looking at it is actually, it's a newer process. I know that I've had a lot of conversations with the Department of Technology for the state. They're working on their own broadband action plan, and they're very interested in our roadmap from a 5-county regional standpoint as a model to implement. So yeah, it is. I wouldn't say it's a brand new innovative idea, but it is definitely different and a new approach to it. Because the other approach, and the one that one of our closest neighbors, El Dorado County, they did a broadband plan, and they spent about $150,000 to be told that they would need a huge, vast quantity of money to create a municipality network, and it died in the water right there. So, yeah.
And then just another question: the opportunity zone in Sonora city limits, is that a piece to the puzzle that you can use to reach out to businesses?
Absolutely.
Have you
Yep. So one of the really great opportunities in Tuolumne County is it's Groveland, and a lot of it out towards Yosemite and downtown Sonora, even up towards Columbia and Sawmill Flat Road. And yeah, that is a really great tool. If anyone is interested in a kind of summary and a short explanation that was actually approved by GoBiz in the sense of it makes a lot of sense and it's how to explain it succinctly, it's at Select Tuolumne, that same website that I said earlier, and there's a tab that's called Opportunities. And so there's a great little explanation with a timeline of how you sell your asset to then invest it in an opportunity investment zone and make it all work.
So it's a piece of the puzzle as far as
Absolutely.
attraction and
Yeah.
whatnot. Okay. And then have you just, I mean, this is off the fly, so I didn't give you a heads up, but so many people have been visiting, moving up to this area, even if it's just coming up for a few weeks to get away from the city and work satellite, remotely. Have you, it seems like that's going on with or without, us reaching out. Is there any way to capitalize on that? Have you had any thoughts on, I mean, some of these things maybe we can't do, but I just know naturally there's a lot of people coming up here
Right.
To work remotely part-time, but also looking to open up satellite offices out of their homes.
Yeah, so 2 things. I've been working and trying to develop a program, and that's why I actually brought it up in this action plan with the Visitor Bureau. and the Association of Realtors on trying to make a campaign or find a way that when someone comes to visit, we make sure they understand how to stay. And then the second part is that I'm also going to start implementing a telecommuting or a working from home campaign. And so we started with that. It went live on our website, the Select Tuolumne website, about what is the key takeaways, how do you get broadband, where do you find a house, how do you connect to a realtor, so that telecommuters can look at Tuolumne County as a place to come and live and work. So that is, it's being worked on. Yep. Thank you.
And I know we've talked offline, it's COVID obviously threw a wrench in
Supervisor
everything.
Kirk, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I am going to, just for a quick moment, because I received an email from Mr. Buckley, and he is telling me that our sound goes in and out, and so that it is, so for example, when Ms. Ryan read the public participation procedures, the explanation had no sound, came back on when I made my comment, and so I think that we need to take a moment and make sure that the public has the full capacity to hear us. So I don't mean to interrupt you, but this is really, it really is important that. You know what? Why don't we go ahead and just take a 10-minute break? I think we could all use it, and we'll try, and then we'll come back and wrap up. Cole, and I do apologize for the interruption.
No problem.
This is really good information, but they were trying to follow the conversation, and we're having it challenging because it was going in and out. Thank you. So we will take a 9-minute break and be back at 10:30.
We fixed it. When did the email come in? And is somebody watching it? How are they watching it? Do we know? Mr. Buckley here. Yeah, it's probably. Yeah, we read that at 10 o'clock. But that's. Oh, hey, hello, how are you? Yeah. We did have an issue with Heather's mic.
And I was ready to stand up and give huge praises.
No. You weren't doing anything wrong. Your mic level going to the record was broken. So we fixed that. So it wasn't like in the room it sounded fine, but the problem was it wasn't getting back into the broadcast.
I think that's what
So we fixed that like 45 minutes ago. But what that email is describing isn't consistent with. I'll make sure. Yeah, that's not consistent with any of the rest of our issues. That's from 1017, but what he's describing is the whole thing kicking in and out. Sounds like his internet, maybe? Yeah. We have staff members watching the broadcast, minus a couple little audio things. How do I? I guess I can call it.
We are back, and we think we have everything resolved. And before we go to our 10:30 appointment, we need to finish up our 10 a.m. And so we were in the process of taking board comment at that point. I'm going to ask if there is any other board comment.
Just
on
a
the
quick
presentation.
comment. Cole, yeah, I believe you're spot on what you're doing, your approach here. I think it's good. Going after that money is really important, and we know that. And Also want to compliment you on the work that you've been doing through this COVID
Thank you.
thing. I mean, it takes everybody to work together, and obviously we have a great team, so thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor.
And Cole, I also wanted to kind of add on that, we're looking forward to hearing, to get the word on the $500,000 grant, but, you've been very instrumental in moving us forward with a broadband plan anyway, just for the public's knowledge that this is already going on and being implemented. For example, we had the first reading through the Transportation Committee of the Dig Once policy, and just kind of a brief idea of what that is that anytime we make infrastructure improvements, road repaving, anything that might open up the roadways to laying conduit and broadband internet infrastructure, that we make those connections with the ISPs. So that's already in place, so that we're not repaving streets and then digging them up again and repaving them again. So it saves the taxpayer money and creates better coordination between public agencies and private industry. And it's ultimately better for the consumer in the long run, I think. So,
Agreed.
And you've been instrumental in getting that going for our county and in the broadband plan. So thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up. Thank you, Ryan.
And I would add, driving that broadband plan from a regional perspective, and I think that's important too, as we look at so many partnerships that we have, and this is one of those pieces, and you have really been instrumental in continuing that effort and keeping it moving in a forward direction. So,
I just want to add my comments. Everything that's been said is absolutely true. I think your innovation and your personal commitment to this is exceptional. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor.
And then I just want to close it with, they've said all those important parts, but one thing that you said that was really important, I hope the community heard, is, this isn't just your baby, this is also the community's. And so if people, I forward your stuff to business leaders all the time, ask them for feedback. I just ask people who are listening, who are watching, if they have ideas, if they think something could be better. What I like about you is you're open to communicate with and you're open to work with. So just encourage the community to get involved if there's something we think we can do better. We want to hear from them, and we want them to be in touch with you and working with you, and make this a successful endeavor. So thank you for being pliable and workable.
Yeah, thank you,
Appreciate it.
Supervisor.
before we move on, I want to ask if there is any public comment on our 10 a.m. appointment. All right, there is no public comment. And so at this time, Ms. Ryan, will you please restate the public participation procedures for today's meeting?
If a member of the public would like to call in and comment on any item that has not already been heard by the board today, they can do so by calling 209-533-6581 when the board clerk has read the item. That will allow them to queue in time for when the board chair opens the public comment period.
So thank you. And I also want to thank the public for being patient with us. Again, as we said at the onset of the meeting today, we have had a complete remodeling and a completely new media platforms put in to provide for more access and transparency, but we are working through a few of those kinks this morning. And so we really do appreciate your patience, and we do want to hear from you. And if you were missed, please email the board any comments that you had. And with that, Ms. Ryan, will you please read our 10:30 appointment?
Presentation on the planning to construct a wood pellet facility in Tuolumne County. Presentation by Greg Norton, President of Rural County Representatives of California, and Kevin Can, Board Chair of the Golden State Natural Resources. If the public has comment for this item, we encourage you to please call in now, 209-533-6581.
And Mr. Presbell is going to introduce this item for us today.
Good morning again, supervisors. As you know, removing biomass from our forest is not only a topic that's been of interest to you, but it's incredibly important, as it's been a bottleneck for many of our forest management strategies. It creates large hurdles for our community to secure property insurance, and it also exacerbates our wildfire seasons. And with that in mind, I'm really excited to introduce Golden State Natural Resources, or sometimes known as GSNR. GSNR is planning to construct a wood pellet facility in Tuolumne County, utilizing those low to no value forest and agricultural material. And like Heather said, today I'm honored to introduce Greg Norton, President and CEO of GSNR, and Kevin Kane, GSNR Board Chair and Supervisor in Mariposa County. They will join us via Zoom to share more about this innovative project that will have a direct impact on reducing biomass in our region, workforce, and economic development. So I'm excited to introduce GSNR.
Very good. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate the introduction. Thank you very much for the support and effort that you've been providing. Also, I want to thank Chair Brian and the members of the Board of Supervisors for your time this morning. I appreciate very much the opportunity to share with you and get to let you know a little bit more about what's going on in our GSNR efforts. Also want to thank Chair Brian for her support, not only on this, but as a member of the RCRC Board of Directors, the Golden State Finance Authority Board of Directors, and more, and also Supervisor Rutherford for your support over the years of RCRC and our organizational efforts. So thank you all very much. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I know that all of you are obviously familiar with RCRC and our affiliate entities and some of the other things that we do, so I'm going to skip over that part of the presentation. If you have questions in that regard, I can certainly come back to that. What I want to do today is spend some time sharing with you where we are with GSNR, provide an update on our efforts. We have had quite a lot of progress completed over time, with still a lot to go. However, we're at a point where we're feeling more and more confident about our ability to succeed. So, following the Ring Fire in 2013 and the continuation of the various catastrophic fires that we've been experiencing throughout the state, we decided that we thought it would be worth our effort to try to determine if there's some opportunity for us to participate in being part of the solution to our forest conditions. So after quite a lot of time of research and speaking with folks and talking about what might be possible, we started to work on this. It began actually with a question from Tuolumne County about providing additional resources to help remove mortality trees that were presenting the public safety issues and concerns. Although some of the counties, such as Tuolumne, had received grants from the state to help remove that material, more resources were needed. Our organization does a lot in the realm of capital finance and resource development. So we were looking at an opportunity to see if we could do that. In that effort, one thing led to another, and we began exploring other opportunities that would go beyond one-time resources and looking for the opportunity to see if we could develop a project that would be ongoing and have a market where it would be sustainable. Over that time, we created GSNR. And since then, we've already received a 501c3 IRS tax exemption designation. We've also received a similar exemption from the state of California. All 5 board members on GSNR are all elected county supervisors. One of whom, Supervisor Can, is the chair of GSNR. So to assist us with expertise that we don't have, we have a lot of expertise in the realm of developing and scaling programs and raising capital. But in the areas where we need additional assistance, we are working with a number of experts in the realm of forestry, engineering, design, facility construction, and a lot more than that. So we have a very good team of members to help us to further this effort. So in simple terms, GSNR was created to assist with forest resiliency by reducing fire fuels in our forests and by working on an existing and growing market. We want to develop an ongoing entity that, again, would focus both on current and long-term success in achieving forest health. So we not only understand that government funds are needed, federal, state, and others, to help with one-time efforts, but we needed to develop a program that wasn't reliant upon government funds or one-time money. Not that we wouldn't and haven't worked with some government funds to help in certain portions of this, but the design is to develop something that would be long-term and ongoing. So we believe that, on the government side, with it not being consistent year to year, we didn't want to build our entity upon that type of reliance. So we've adopted guiding principles that would help us in developing this project. Would have been approved by our board of directors. Just in quick summary, they want to protect and enhance the quality of life in California's rural counties, which would include obviously the decrease in frequency of impact of catastrophic fires, enhancing public safety, etc. Also, a big part of what we're trying to accomplish here is the enhancement of rural jobs and economic development. Next was to promote healthy, resilient forests and environmental stewardship. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. And then fulfilling our fiduciary duties to the various parties that would be involved in this. So the purpose of the entity is fully public benefit, public purpose. We do not have shareholders. We're not subject to income taxes from federal or state. And the idea is that as resources are generated, they would go back into the project, into the forest and the communities that we're serving. It would be a project that would be, is designed to be self-sustaining and scalable, and also to focus on both the immediate and the long term. So the business concept is to match, it's kind of like the old business school supply and demand discussion, to match the supply of biomass we have here in California with the demand for industrialized wood pellets that are being required in Asia. What's happening in Asian countries, and it's already been occurring in Europe for quite some time, is that they're trying to convert from coal to biomass energy generation for a renewable portfolio. These organizations countries are involved in the Kyoto Agreement and the Paris Climate Change Accord, etc. And part of what they're trying to do for greenhouse gas reduction is convert from coal to other renewable sources to help with their efforts to achieve that and contribute to global climate. So these Asian countries are pursuing renewable sources which they do not have much. Currently, in the pellet industry, the largest pellet producer is in Southeast U.S., and they provide a lot of their material to Europe. The big demand that's coming in the future is in Japan and other Asian markets. And obviously we have, being in California on the West Coast, we're in good proximity for being part of that solution. So very simply stated, the summary of this is that we would develop processing sites, remove excess fire fuels from the forest, transport, produce the wood biomass, and then transport the biomass to port by rail, and then export to the Asian markets to be used to generate energy. We would enter into long-term offtake agreements in those countries. In Japan in particular, we're looking at agreements that would be from 10 to 15 years, so it would be a long-term commitment. And then we would move forward with that and develop a method to grow and scale that and the amount of delivery that we can make into Japan and other Asian markets. As part of the effort to make things work easier and to be more able to be planned, and working with the Forest Service, we intend to privately fund and contract for NEPA performance. We would then work with the Forest Service to develop supplemental project agreements and specific landscape treatments. And then we would contract with local harvesters, farmers, and others to implement those treatment plans, thereby providing additional resources and opportunity to grow businesses there locally. The pellets that we produce at sites, there are GSNR sites employed by GSNR employees, and then we would roll to the ports and export from those ports. And right now, the primary port that we're working with and have so much time with is the Port of Stockton. Currently, the primary focus is the U.S. Forest Service forests, although we plan to and will cross over boundaries, obviously, and work with state and private landowners, industries, other local efforts, etc. We intend to cooperate with and assist fire safe councils, RCDs, other cooperatives, etc., including YSS, others in your community and other communities around the state, and working to make sure that we achieve efficiency and meet the needs of all the different parties. Our plan is to be a partner with the county, the community, and the industry in that area so that we can make sure that everyone's efforts are furthered and we can be consistent. Some other things that we could be involved in and we've had discussions about are, for example, is the federal and state government are working on a plan to help with transportation routes, ingress, egress for areas that are subject to fire. By removing the material along those routes, they would have an additional cost of disposing of material. If we can help with taking that material off their hands, more resources are available to them to treat more road miles. Similar idea of working with PG&E vegetation management on their transmission line corridors, et cetera. And a number of other efforts like that, we try to be part of the solution with others, and every little bit that goes toward benefiting their efforts and using more resources for their work is a win for everybody. We're trying to look at this obviously with a holistic view, considering how we can provide the most benefit possible and successful business model that would be ongoing. Each site we intend to have cogen energy generation so that we're not wasting any material. And even there's a couple of other things that we can do to help. The focus is forest resiliency and forest health, but there's still a lot of challenges in California that I know you're aware of. There's a difficulty right now with being able to dispose of orchard waste. Landfills have clean green waste, so in their organic waste diversion efforts, that's a challenge. We can take those materials, whether they use in a pellet or in cogen would be determined, but the idea would be is that we can be a benefit to them as well. And those resources are less costly to achieve because they're not having to be harvested. And the lower cost of that material is beneficial in regards to us being able to have more resources to treat more forest acres. Having said all that, I want to make sure that we're really clear with you that we intend to have no negative impact on any of the existing industry. We would work with everyone with YSS and SDI, with the Chinese camp, all the other industry providers in that area. We absolutely don't want to cause any harm. The idea is that we would have a footprint that would be supportive of what they're doing, and we could be able to access other biomass that maybe could be assistance to them as well. And so we'll help that out. We'll work that out with all of them to make sure that it works for all parties. So we've achieved quite a bit so far. Again, we still have more hurdles to follow and jump, and so, but I wanted to show you a little bit about our progress today. So today, we've signed a 20-year master stewardship agreement with the U.S. Forest Service. You remember that, I'm going to turn this over for a moment to Supervisor Cannon. Let him share with you a little bit about the history and some of the conversations that we've had with the Forest Service and USDA.
To me, there were two major turning points in this project. You know, we had a lot of good ideas that don't come to fruition, but back in December of 2018, President Trump signed an executive order on forest health. And it actually is an excellent document. Unfortunately, what the media picked up from it was the raking the forest, the comments that he made. And so, you know, we got past that. But right on the heels of that, Greg and I had the opportunity in February of 2019 to meet with Undersecretary Hubbard of Department of Agriculture and the Forest Service Chief Christensen to explain this project. And frankly, you know, it was all they could do to keep from hugging us because they had a huge directive and they had essentially very little money and not a very good plan. And the GSNR concept met, you know, ticked off all of those items. That led to the need and the discussion whereupon in October of that year, we were able to sign what Greg referred to, the 20-year master stewardship agreement that essentially covers all of California. And that really initiated our ability to turn this into a real project. While we have a lot of work on private lands and landfills and orchards and so on, the ability to work and have the commitment from the entirety of the forest lands in California really opened the door. And then the second serious turning point for me was the production of the 3 feasibility feasibility analysis that we now have in a relatively complete form. They're peer-reviewed, one on supply, one on production, one on marketing. I mean, we all get frustrated over the endless discussions of scope and scale and frankly, a degree of futility when we are comparing current treatment of acres with the documented need. This project, well, we'll accept, obviously, state and federal funding. This project isn't coming with a handout for funding. It's really the first viable concept for removing low to no value biomass and turning it into a marketable project. Greg, I didn't go too far.
No, thank you. It's perfect. So as Supervisor Kane had stated, the 20-year master stewardship agreement and the way that it was developed has been really a really good process with the Forest Service. They had recently only had the opportunity to enter into 20-year agreement, so we were among the first to be able to do that. And also having that agreement be statewide in all 18 national forests in California is quite beneficial. They also were very cooperative in some of the things in there that would help us to get things done. I'd say that one of the things we're planning on doing is we will privately fund the NEPA and the CEQA performance, et cetera. I'm sure you're aware that the Forest Services has limited resources and staff and labor hours to be able to do that. With us being able to do that ourselves, we'll be able to plan ahead. I'd shared that offtake agreements are 10 to 15 years, et cetera. You want to look at this with the long-term perspective, so we can plan ahead on landscape and development of supplemental project agreements and treatment plans so that we are prepared for the future to be able to meet what our obligations are in delivery of the industrialized wood pellets into Japan and other countries. We will still, even though we have had these feasibility studies completed, understand that they are truly feasibility studies and looking at is this practical, does it make sense, does it look like it'll work? And so we've gone through that level, and obviously we're at a point where we are encouraged by the feasibility studies, but we still know that there's a lot that we need to assess in regard to the specific areas and the landscapes and roads and access, et cetera, that will really give us a lot more detail and much more realistic look at it, which will end up helping us understand how to size the facility in regard to the level of production. And we will talk about that a little bit more in a moment. One of the other things that we had done is we had a triple bottom line cost-benefit analysis completed using peer-reviewed science and other efforts to support those outcomes. It addressed areas such as life cycle costs, mitigated property damage, reduced wildfire emissions with the reduction of the level of intensity of fires, et cetera, economic development, job creation, and one thing that was really interesting was the comparing being harvested in Australia and exported to Japan versus the biomass being harvested here in California and exported. And even with those longer distance for the export, the information came back incredibly encouraging in the amount of reduction of greenhouse gases and other impacts to the climate. So that was very encouraging. It also will result in numerous direct, indirect, and induced jobs, both through construction and through operation. So it's very encouraging in the results that can occur in rural communities. So financing the project, as we've stated, we will utilize some federal and state resources to be truly supplemental and helpful, but is not being relied upon at all to be able to succeed with this. The primary capital raise will come from private equity and debt issuance. One of our entities has issued quite a bit of debt over the years in our capital raise efforts, and so we understand that part of the business. And we intend to do this, like I said, primarily on private investment, as well as when the resources are generated and with success, the intent as a public entity is to make sure that those resources go back into additional forest treatments and additional expansion scaling of the program and additional benefits to the communities that we're working in. So as Chair Can had noted, we've had very strong support from USDA, U.S. Forest Service in D.C., also from Region 5, very strong support as well from the state agencies, Secretary Crowfoot, Natural Resources, also the secretaries of EPA and Food and Ag here in the state, Chief Porter at CAL FIRE, et cetera. We've had tremendous federal, state, and local support for our efforts. Obviously, everybody knowing how much this is needed. And so we're really focused on making sure that we do things the right way and meet the requirements that everybody has, as well as being able to achieve the successes that are important to all of us. So I'm saying that again because I want to make sure that you understand we don't think we are the full solution. We're looking at this as we are part of the solution. We want to work with all the other parties, private industry, all the government agencies. We've had numerous discussions with the California Forestry Association. We've met with the Associated California Loggers, workforce development groups, RCDs, fire safe councils, tribes, et cetera. We intend to work with everybody to make sure that this is done the right way and is beneficial to all parties. Our current plan calls for us to develop 2 processing facilities. We're planning on one in the Central Sierra and one in Northern California. It would be easier to do them near each other where they can use the same supply chain, but what we want to do is work on it in 2 different parts of the state to really develop the supply chain, learn what we need to learn early on so that with success we can scale and grow into additional facilities and have developed supply chains in 2 primary regions of the state. Local economies will benefit again from direct and indirect investment, employment, et cetera. But I want to make sure that we're really clear that I'm talking about industrialized pellets, but this is not a pellet company. This is a forest resiliency company. We're already looking at potential products that we can develop or that we can make part of what we're trying to do. On some of our campuses, we plan on having an innovation campus where we provide location and material for those that are so many people that are very smart and come up with and create new things that we've never heard of, have an opportunity to work there and have material and create new products. We did look at and are still supportive of cross-laminated timber and nanotechnology and bioplastics, et cetera, and hope that those markets grow further. They exist to different degrees in different places, but the most mature and active market right now for us with the low to no value biomass is in the industrialized pellets. So that's where we're beginning. So again, we want to be part of the solution. We want to make sure that what we're doing contributes to the enhancement of our forest health, our watershed health, our air quality, et cetera. But we're looking at a lot of other products down the line so that if the pellets do go away as a renewable energy source, we have other products where we continue as a forest resiliency company. We have been evaluating sites all over the state, numerous locations. We've visited many. We've done a lot of assessment. We recently closed escrow on the site that was a SPI site in Jamestown, the Keystone site. We closed on that at the end of October. So it was the first site that we have purchased. And so we're looking forward to moving forward with that. And we can chat about that a little bit more if you desire. In regard to timing, it's frustrating because things never seem to happen fast enough, especially when we've had these periods where we walk outside and we see all the smoke in the air and all the ash on our cars, et cetera, that we want this to happen so much faster. But the reality is it takes time as hard as we're pushing on these things. So right now, we expect to be exporting pellets, which will take quite a lot to get to that point, but exporting pellets in the latter half of 2023. There's a lot of work that needs to be done on CEQA and NEPA, plant design and engineering, and construction, getting equipment in that's necessary, et cetera. All that will be on as fast a track as possible, hoping that, again, that we're in our forest beginning work in early 23 and exporting pellets in the latter portion of 2023. We have already initiated CEQA efforts and review on that site at Keystone and Jamestown, so that is already underway. And there are a number of other areas that we're working on to make sure that this happens efficiently. We've had so much support, a great amount of support from the county, Tuolumne, and the whole region. Supervisor Kuiken has been amazing and very helpful in our efforts. Supervisor Brennan, Quincy Yaley, Cole Prisbella, everybody there at your county and the local community there has been very helpful. Mike Albrecht, Randy Hambelt, and others with the Associated California Loggers have been incredibly helpful, beneficial. Yesterday we had meetings with folks from the different water agencies, Farm Bureau, RCD, and others in your community that Supervisor Brennan and Cole helped us to invite. We also have a call later today with the YSS group, and just sharing with them, similar to what we are with you here today, but about where we are and what's going on and how important it will be for us to work with all of you in the community to make this work. So our organization, if you know RCRC, you know that we're dedicated and committed to rural California and to our state's forests. And so we're really focused on doing everything that we can and being that type of partner that it makes a positive difference. So since we've purchased the site there in the county, again, we're going to go through development, NEPA and CEQA, refining our feedstock assessment with folks that work in the forest in that area more specifically and get things refined. But right now we're encouraged by where we are. We wanted to let you know where we are in the process and be able to have some Q&A with you a bit about it and make sure that you're aware of what's going on. And we will commit to keeping you up to date and posted on progress as we move forward. So with that, let me ask if Supervisor Kent has more to share with you prior to us getting into questions.
Thanks, Greg. And thank you all again for your attention. I can't continue talking without at least saying hello to like so many friends on the Tuolumne Board of Supervisors and your staff. We have been through a lot in my 12 years as a supervisor. It's really appropriate to recognize a tremendous cooperative relationship between Mariposa and Tuolumne County soups over this time. It's never been more valuable than over this past crazy year. And I want to give my warmest, best wishes to Supervisors Brennan, Rotifer, and Gray as they move on with their lives and their careers. It has been a true joy working with you all. Lastly, I just want to say that I've worked on, many of you know I spent 18 years in Yosemite. I've participated in a lot of forest health initiatives in my career, but nothing with as much potential and frankly the political and financial wherewithal to actually really make an impact on a landscape scale. Though the concept is, motherhood and apple pie, we all know that obstacles exist. I have been particularly enthused with the reception from the State Resources Department and through their partnership, most other state agencies. We, unfortunately, often some of them are more a part of the problem than the solution. But so far, very, very excited. At this point, we really would love to entertain any questions that you all might have.
So I immediately see hands going up across the dais, and so I'm just going to start in one direction and move across. So Supervisor Gray, I'm going to start down here, and then go to Supervisor Rotifer.
Yes, I've got the best seat in the house because you probably can't see my face. I'm hidden behind all this technology. But Kevin, we kind of started this job at the same time, and I certainly appreciate the relationship that you and I have had, and with Mariposa County and all the supervisors. It's been a great journey, and I really, really appreciate it. Greg, a lot of the questions that I had, you answered through the presentation, but the one thing the question I would ask is, you put a date out here as 2023, and if there's anything that we can do as a county or I can do personally to help accelerate that time frame, I'm in the game. Old supervisors kind of fade away, but we're still going to be around. So I offer any help in the future that I can give. Thank you.
Certainly appreciate that, Supervisor Rotifer. And there was
Gray, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry, Supervisor Gray. I can't see your screen too well. I apologize for that.
There he is.
Oh, good.
I'm not very tall.
But anyway, I really appreciate that, and we certainly will need to work with the county in a number of areas to be able to move this forward, from the the environmental reviews to permitting and other issues that will be a challenge for us to move things quickly. And we've had from your staff and your team a lot of express support to date, and they've helped us in a number of ways, and so we're very thankful for that, and we look forward to working with the county and the community in this effort.
So, were you done?
Yeah.
Greg, I'd echo Supervisor Gray's comments on behalf of myself as well. You guys said some good words about Sherry and myself, but I can't let this go without thanking Kevin Can. Kevin, for the 8 years that I've been on the board, you have been a tremendous leader for rural counties, not just Mariposa, not just Tuolumne, but for all rural counties in California, both at the state level through RCRC, but also at the national level through NACO and the WIR. And I just want to thank you for carrying the torch for those of us that are population challenged in the state of California, and thank you so much.
Thanks, Carl. It just, when you're doing stuff that you love, it's not work. And as you well know, it's just been a tremendous thrill working with you all. Good people.
Amen.
Supervisor?
Yeah, this is the kind of efforts that we've been talking about. So I know that I've been involved in conversations about this kind of thing since tree mortality way back in 2015, and so this is kind of the culmination of sticking to the idea that fuels management and healthy forests are the path to creating fire-safe communities. And this is a big part of it. I really appreciated the comment that you made, that you said you're not a pellet company, you're a forest management company, and to me that's music to everyone's ears here in Tuolumne County, because it really, I think that's a very accurate and a good statement, because it shows that we can use the resources in our county that would otherwise be fire fuels and cause more risk to our community, to actually create products that people would want to use and want to buy, and create employment for people to produce those products, and create more transportation connections with the Port of Stockton and the railroad. So just so many boxes that you're ticking with this. As other supervisors have said, I think you have a lot of support here on the board and in the county in general. So please don't hesitate to reach out and stay in communication with the board and with the community, because I think you'll find a lot of positive feedback from a lot of people. And thank you very much, Greg and Kevin, for all the work that you've done. And I'll pass it on to Supervisor Kirk or back to the chair.
Supervisor?
Thank you for those comments, Supervisor Campbell. Very much appreciated, and we look forward to working with you on this.
Cool. So I have a few comments, and then I do have a few questions. And I was just sitting here thinking, when I was 5 or 6 years old, I was picking bark beetles with my grandfather. He was a chemist. And I asked him, why are we picking bark beetles? He says, well, our forests are mismanaged, and eventually they're going to stress out, and they're going to die, and then beetles are going to come, and everything's going to die, and we're going to have massive wildfires. And, I'm a kid, and I have no idea what he's talking about. And then, we lived through the Rim Fire. We see what's happening to California. So I'm sitting here, and I'm hearing this presentation, and I'm just thinking back about how, I think we're finally to that. We've been in that place, and we're starting to see the tides turn where, the state of California, we manage and we say we're environmentally clean, but yet we get one rim fire, and that puts off more more CO2s, more pollutants than all the stuff that we regulate, with car emissions, all those other things combined. So it's cool to finally see projects coming into play that are really going to start dealing with the situation. And so just as a young person in my 30s, getting this to be a part of this is really a cool moment for me. And like Supervisor Campbell said and the rest of the board, I think you undoubtedly have completely our support, but the community support at large. And so with that being said, I did have a couple questions, and I'll just read them off, and if you want to speak to them, that'd be great. But is there any legislative support that you guys are going to need? It sounds like we have a lot of support from U.S. Forest Service, EPA, water agencies, and whatnot. But what is the response that you're getting from environmental groups? Have you had any pushback throughout the state? Have you had any pushback locally with some of the environmental groups? Do you see that as being an issue moving forward? And then my last question is just a tax question. Where's the headquarters going to be for this organization?
Okay, well, thank you, Supervisor. I appreciate your questions. Do the best I can in answering them. Some of them will, to more specific details, would be coming out as we move forward. But in regard to legislative support, we may need some as we go forward. I wouldn't have a specific request for that right now. We do, as you're probably aware, at RCRC have advocates that are on staff here with us and other parties that we work with, that we're working on the broader forest health and fire issues, not specifically to this project, but just more of what's needed in California's rural communities in the forest. So a lot of that work is underway and actually be presented to our board again here fairly shortly. In regard to the environmental pushback, I will say that we are working with DUDAC as our environmental firm, quite a lot of experience in the industry and the broad realm that we're working in. They've begun, as I stated, the CEQA process. As we get more into the NEPA side of things, they would do this anyway, but we've really expressed to them the need for really open communication with the community, any and all parties supportive and those that are concerned, to make sure that the communication is clear, it's heard and understood, and that we design things in a way that would be most acceptable so that we can move forward with what needs to be done. And so, I know that there'll always be people that have different levels of concern, but we plan to be very open in our communications with all of them. And then lastly, in regard to the headquarters, the headquarter office will be here in Sacramento where RCRC's offices are, but with the locations in different communities, there will be offices and people in those communities, but at the site that would be locked into that community and more directly. So even though the headquarters, so to speak, will be here in Sacramento, there'll be direct involvement in the communities where we have processing sites.
All right, well, thank you. And just again, thank you guys for your work, and you have my support moving forward. Anything we can do to help.
Thank you.
So it's back to me, and just a couple of quick comments and then a question. Often I'm asked, what are you doing at RCRC? You spend some time with those folks. What are you doing? And I want to, so I believe the first I heard about this project was actually at our state meeting when we were in Death Valley. And I know that the leadership of RCRC and the staff had been working on this for several months prior to that. And so I would say that we're 2 years at least into getting to this point. And, as Greg mentioned, these conversations really kicked off with the rim fire, but then virtually every single year since then, the breadth and depth of catastrophic fire across the entire state of California has, it took on a life where RCRC representing those 37 counties and such a large percentage of the land base in the state of California stepped up in a way that we were all talking about, but we're having difficulty in wrapping conceptually, how do you move this forward? And so, Greg, one of my questions is, and it's just for so the public understands, because you're talking about a couple of different facilities and there being some breakup and not actually having an exact on the volume yet, but can you give the public some idea of the breadth of this across the two plants that you're looking at now with regards to the demand on the Asian Rim?
Absolutely. Thank you, Supervisor Brennan. So let me answer it this way. In the planning stage that we're at, we are currently planning on two facilities that could each have as much as 500,000 metric tons of pellets produced. And so let's just say, for example, at the Keystone site, we still have work to do to determine how large that facility would do. Would the feasibility support a 500,000 metric ton facility? But we also know that in that area, there'll be specific details that people that really understand the broader Stanislaus Forest and accessibility, et cetera, as well as needing to meet with people that are already utilizing that material in the area in that industry so that we bring no harm, but actually could potentially bring more feedstock and more support to their efforts. Following those assessments, we would size the facility. But let's just say, for the sake of this discussion, it's a 500,000 metric ton facility. That would mean that somewhere in the realm of 900,000 tons of green material would come into the facility, considering the moisture content, et cetera, to get to the bone-dried ton level for the 500,000 metric tons. That would be part of it. Also, with having cogen at the site, there would be additional material, and that might come from the landfills or the orchards or other, guts and feathers type of material that's not eligible for pellets that would be utilized in the cogen. So other material that would come in. So that's part of that. And the two plants together, we're hoping that we get to maybe at least 800,000 metric tons, closer to 1 million. If we're successful with those, because of the significant demand that exists in Japan, we plan on hoping, and a business plan model would be that we would get to somewhere in the realm over the years of exporting about 5 million metric tons, which is a large goal. But when you look at the supply in California and the demand in Japan, that match is not hard to see being successful. It's not so much the supply and demand side of it as other challenges that will dictate how far we'll be able to go. But anyway, if we could do that, we're really looking at somewhere in the realm of, say, 15 plus or minus facilities throughout our forested communities.
So thank you for that explanation, because I think it's important when we talk about the larger picture on this. And what I see is just so innovative with this being a 501c3 and not being driven just by the bottom line from an economic standpoint, but the triple bottom analysis that was done, and understanding that some of the facilities may be in areas that are in desperate need, but may not be as cost effective. And so, again, I see this as this is going to be a significant piece in the puzzle on how we get to fire resiliency again and safer communities. And so I just have really appreciated my time working on this project with you. And go team. It's just going to be so outstanding for our entire region. And Kevin, as you said, this is going to be a regional effort when we're looking at 100-mile radius or 100 miles out from the facility for material. So it has benefits to both of our neighbors, actually neighbors on all sides of us, and just so excited about this project moving forward. So at this time, I do need to ask if there is any public comment, if there is anyone that would like to comment on this. Technology. Go ahead.
Okay, if I'm on, then this is Randy Handel. First of all, I want to chastise the Tuolumne County a little bit for their poor technology, because I missed a lot of it, even though I've tried to online. But anyway, what I want to make a comment about, and I want to thank Greg Norton and Kevin Can for their leadership and their courage, and that of RCRC and Golden State Natural Resources, which I didn't hear anybody really comment. I wouldn't expect them to comment, but they're taking in a huge amount of risk, business risk, that no one else would be able to take or was willing to take. This is the game changer to get the ball started. It's a little chicken egg when you argue what has to come first to make things happen in terms of pace and scale. But these people are doing it, and I can't thank them enough for their leadership. They deserve more than just our oral support and say, hey, encouragement. They need hands-on support at every level, proactive, make it happen. So I just wanted to say thank you to both Greg and Kevin and RCRC and Golden State Natural Resources. You're doing the right thing, and it takes a lot of courage and leadership, and we appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Randy.
Is there any other public comment? No. I don't believe there's any other public comment. So with that, gentlemen, again, thank you for your time and the update, both in the meetings yesterday and today. I think they're going to be really beneficial in getting the public's understanding of what the project potential is as it moves forward. So with that, thank you.
Chair Brennan, thank you for the time today, and also want to specifically thank you and Cole for assisting us so much and the support that you provided, the introductions that you've made, and helping us to set up meetings with a number of folks in the community. It's been very beneficial, and your support is very much appreciated. So thank you again.
Yeah, had you not set up the other briefings, we would have had 20 more public comments probably. So thank you very much, Chair Brennan, for sure.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So in the interest of time, with the staff that is present, I want to keep moving on with the agenda. And Ms. Ryan, will you please read item 10?
Consideration of approving an amendment to the agreement and resolution 105-20 with CAL FIRE for the addition of an Amador station in Groveland area for $821,775 with a term of 3 years. Authorize the chair of the board to sign all related documents and authorize the transfer of $250,000 from appropriation for contingencies into County Fire PS&S contract services line item, requiring a 4/5 vote.
Ms. Frank.
Good morning. Maureen Frank, Deputy County Administrator. As your board knows, on September 15th of this year, you approved a 3-year contract with CAL FIRE for the administration of county fire for us. Also, this past year, county has been engaged with Groveland Community Service District regarding discussions on the impact of fire and first responder coverage in their area. Over the years, as you may know, calls requiring Groveland Community Service District fire to respond outside their district into the county response area has increased. Also, lately, there also has been many proposed developments in that area, which we know will have an impact on that area for first responder services. In a spirit of collaboration and cooperation, GCSD, CAL FIRE, and county staff have all been meeting to come up with a bridging solution for us in regards to first responder coverage while we continue to work on a long-term solution in this area. So today, before you for consideration, is an amendment to our CAL FIRE contract that would provide an additional Amador station in the Groveland area for a 3-year period. This agreement would, the cost of this amendment would be $821,775 for a 3-year period. One of the questions I know that you might have, why right now? Why are we, I guess, seems like we just entered into the contract. Why are we doing this amendment? Basically, what we need to do in working with Groveland Community Service District, the Amador stations come on board or are initiated before, at the end of the fire season. So we're about to come out in the next couple of weeks. I'm told that we will end the fire season period and go into the Amador station period. So it's important for us and our commitment to Groveland Community Service District to do this amendment to our contract so that they were not stuck with any cost this current fiscal year for the Amador station that they are now paying for up in the Groveland area. If this amendment were approved, the maximum amount or impact to the budget for this current fiscal year is $250,000. In order to pay for this amendment, we're going to do some transfers from appropriations from contingencies into the county fire budget. Again, as Heather just mentioned, this action will require a 4/5 vote. The recommendation that's in your board memo has been changed slightly. Staff apologizes for this. This is what I just handed out to you. I needed to include all of the direct transfers. So let me read you the recommendation that's before you today. The attached, so the recommendation is to approve the attached amendment to this agreement and resolution with CAL FIRE for the addition of the Amador station in the Groveland area for the amount of $821,775 with a term of 3 years. I'm also asking to authorize the chairman of the board to sign all related documents and authorize the transfer of $250,000 from appropriations from contingencies and increase the transfers out to fire of the same amount. And on the county fire budget side, on the revenue side, increase the transfers in from the general fund, and on the expenditure side, increase the county fire PS&S contract service line item in the same amount of $250,000. I'm here to answer any questions you may have regarding this item. Also, Andy Murphy's here if you have any questions from him.
Just some clarification here. We have already approved the $250,000. That's correct?
Here we go. So what the board had directed us on September 22nd was to not put money into reserves. That money was then put into contingencies until such time we were able to amend the contract. So that $250 is currently sitting in contingencies as Mo outlined. For this purpose.
Okay, and that was the direction we give staff. Well, I'm just going to comment. It's no secret to me because I live in the South County that over the years we have kind of systematically reduced county presence in that area. We closed the fire station in Moccasin, the Jacksonville station.
Right.
The next closest station is Chinese Camp. We don't have. So anything that happens in that South County has been, the first response has obviously been CAL FIRE, but it's been CAL FIRE mostly from the Groveland Community Service District. And we've pretty much relied on them to take care of the rest of the taxpayers out there. And I think this is an important message to send to the people in South County, that we do know that they're there, and that we're willing to put some funds forward. You mentioned development. Whether developments actually happen or not, we don't know. But if they do, we do know that there's going to be a potential for a considerable amount of more funds available. And as that corridor grows, and we all know eventually it will grow, there's going to be a greater need. So when it comes time, I'd be happy to move on staff recommendation.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I think there's no question that it's needed. And the comments that I receive from folks in my district and those that I know in South County in particular, I think there's a big desire among the community to see shored up fire safety services, particularly in this area. So there's no question that there's a need there. The one thing, serving my role as a wet blanket, as I often do, I just want to make sure that we remember that, we are taking money from contingencies to pay for this. And that is what we're doing by taking that action is essentially committing to working hard in the future to find a sustainable way to pay for this. So I for the public's benefit, I just want that to be out there that this is not, this is absolutely needed. It's something that we should do, and it's the right thing to do, but it doesn't end here today. We need to work with the community and work with the fire districts and with all of the principals involved to make sure that we have secured funding for efforts like this in the future, because we can't draw down contingencies every year. It's not something that you can rely on the way we might want to. So that's what I wanted to say about it. I do support taking this action. I'd be happy to make a second when the time is right.
And just to echo those statements, Supervisor Campbell, county staff, both the county administrator's office and county fire are working towards steps to provide stable funding and bring some recommendations forward so we don't keep asking for things like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And my comments were more to prepare the public that this will be an ongoing conversation, and we're looking for input and we're looking for support from the community to make this an ongoing effort. So thank you.
What Supervisor Campbell said, I completely agree. As far as I know, there's going to be some things brought forward for continued funding, so I look forward to those conversations. I was not optimistic. I didn't think TOT measure would pass, Measure U, but it did. So there's going to be some more monies coming in, and if there is more development, that hasn't been decided yet, but I know the development that is on that quarter brings in, I believe it's half of our TOT revenue, and if additional development comes in, there will be more. So I think it's going to be a combination of if development comes in, but also further discussion about, like we said, fire funding. It's the number one issue for our county. So when we talk about this corridor, a lot of the funding, a lot of the traveling comes up that corridor. So I think it's important that the county take a role in providing, help provide services for that corridor for fire. So that's why I support this moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'd ask if there's any public comment. There is no public comment. Okay, I'm going to bring this back. I think Supervisor Gray.
Yes, I move on staff recommendations and thank the board for their support.
And I'll make a second.
Okay, I have a motion from Supervisor Gray, a second from Supervisor Campbell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mo. Okay, Ms. Ryan, will you please read item 12?
Consideration of approving a 5-year agreement with OpenGov Incorporated for OpenGov permitting, licensing, and code enforcement software services in the amount of $610,735.
All right, thank you. Hello again. Eric Earhart, County Administrator's Office. Before you today is an agreement with OpenGov permitting, licensing, and code enforcement. As you're all aware, COVID-19 health pandemic has impacted everybody across the nation, including the services we provide here in Tuolumne County. Earlier this year, we saw departments close, reduce services, and even now with the spike in COVID-19 cases, we have had a need to reduce the amount of in-person contacts throughout the county. These obviously have greatly impacted the way we provide services, and there's a need now more than ever to provide some of those services online to reduce the risk to the public and staff as well. Unfortunately, the majority of our departments do not have or are not equipped to accommodate the need for this remote service. While the health pandemic has caused some activity in our society to cease, the services that Tuolumne County provides must continue. Staff began looking for ways and software to provide these services in a safe and efficient manner. We're looking for a software solution that would increase the county's ability to provide online applications for building permits, online payments, coordinate digital plan review across departments and outside consultants, compile data, communicate the status of projects and permits to the public, have easily accessible digital document management and storage, and lastly, have the ability to adapt to the various processes we provide through Tuolumne County. If you recall, about this time last year, we were before you for OpenGov's budgeting software. So being familiar with their software, the ease of use, the transparency and reporting platform, we reached back out to OpenGov to find out what solution they may have for us. During that time, we were presented with OpenGov's permitting, licensing, and code enforcement software. And during that presentation with staff, we learned it's much more than just building permits and code enforcement. This software has the ability to take any workflow process or paper form we have that we hand out to the public and put it into a digital format where the public can access those forms at home, fill them out online, and submit them electronically. We have the ability to report that data back out if we want. For example, if we want to report out how many building permits were issued for commercial or residential, that will automatically flow into the budget software that you saw this year and the stories that were presented. So that data will be readily accessible as well. So again, this will be used for services, such as, dog license requests, air pollution complaints, road maintenance requests, building permits, eventually business licenses, all while streamlining the workflow process for staff and the need to produce paper documents and to store those documents. Again, all of our departments throughout the county will be able to use this software. The total cost for this agreement is $610,735, which would be allocated over a 5-year period. The initial cost for the software includes the setup and first year's subscription, which is $174,391. Under the current CARES Act funding, this would be an eligible expense for year 1 of the contract. In preceding years, the subscription would cost just over $109,000 a year, but it would be shared across all departments and all funds that utilize the software. But with this, we'll also be able to reduce other software costs, such as our current building and permitting software, and we'll look for some other areas to reduce that also. So we are looking just roughly about a net increase of about $55,000 a year moving forward, beginning in year 2021-22. But again, that would be shared across all funds and all departments, allowing OpenGov. Sorry, my glasses are fogging up here. While there will be an increase, overall, OpenGov's PLC will allow us to leverage the digital online process to further reduce cost of processing documents, staff time for tracking processes and permits, and create overall efficiencies throughout your department. So it is respectfully recommended that your board approve the attached professional services agreement with OpenGov in the amount of $610,735. And I'm here to answer any questions.
Just comment that, I've had lots of discussion with staff over the years of, how can a board of supervisor find out more what's going on without constantly calling staff up and ask them the specifics. I use an example of a fellow that complained about the speed of his building permit being processed, said it was taking too long. When I finally did the research, I found it wasn't taking too long. He just wasn't really doing his job. But I can see such an advantage for the Board of Supervisors from the information gathering point to be able to pretty much immediately figure out what the heck's going on once we get smart enough on how to figure out how to use it. So I think I don't, I've got 30 days plus maybe 5 in January, so I won't have to worry about it. But I'm sure there's enough brain trust going to be available to teach the new supervisors how to use it. So I think it's a great idea. That's just my comment.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, transparency has been a big part of this, and obviously you saw essentially the tip of the iceberg on what we can do through budgeting, but you'll see more to come as the months come forward.
Supervisor?
Yeah, thank you very much for this. I've taken some time to kind of experiment with some of the web portals and counties that use this software in a similar way to what we're looking at, and it's miles better than what we have right now. And so, we have the best staff in the friggin' state working for Tuolumne County, and they provide the best services to the public, but they're hindered by some of these software issues and some of the difficulties it is that we have coordinating the online portal with actually turning that into permits and some of the documentation that all of us at some point need when we interact with our county government. So looking at the costs, and so the first year you said we are covered by the CARES Act. So that's the 174, which includes the setup in the first year
Correct.
Agreement. And so really the net increase cost after this fiscal year is $55,000 a year.
Correct.
Oh, because we'll be getting rid of the old software that we were using.
And again, we will be looking, again, because we can use this across all departments, we will be looking at other softwares that we may potentially be able to eliminate and just go to this and consolidate into OpenGov.
Okay.
And reduce those costs as well.
And so for that additional cost, what other benefits is the public getting for that? When you spread it out over all the departments, it's a relatively small additional cost. Can you give some examples of what the public would be getting over and above what they're getting right now?
Yeah, again, so they would have the ability to essentially, stay home and completely submit their building plans. They have the ability to where you can electronically submit the CAD files. They can redline those in a digital format, submit it back, and print their permit right there at their home without even having to come in. Contractors will be able to do this in the evenings if time doesn't allow for them to come to the office and submit plans that way. The simplest forms even, if you have a complaint form, you can do it right there. You don't have to come down or have somebody email you a form. You can do it, download it online and submit it electronically. It's going to be the overall ease of gaining access to county services, but also, again, those services that we are providing to the community. It's our ability to report back out because the community wants to know what is it I'm receiving for my dollar. And this is going to be an easier way for us to produce that information, when we do our annual budgets and we show them, here's the goals and objectives of, the fire department. But here's the things that we've accomplished this year because that data is going to flow directly into that same report. So it kind of brings everything together to produce that report and just make that information easily accessible to the public. So that way they'll be able to answer their questions.
No, it seems like a small thing, but I'm really excited because this is exactly where the public interacts with their county the most. And I see Quincy back there. I know she's excited to have some of these improvements, and so where the public interacts with the county, anywhere we can make improvements to that is ideal, and this is a big one. The one thing I would add, I guess suggestion I would make is we need to really let people know once we roll this out and once kind of the bugs have been worked out. Mm-hmm. Because as we know, people get kind of used to the system being the way it is. And so it might take a little bit of shepherding to explain the new process. But like I said, I've experimented with this a little bit as it works in other counties, and I really think it works better.
Yeah,
So-
it will also not only do external workflow process, but internally, we think about the amount of forms and documents we have internally that we route from department to department. Paper copies, we'll be able to convert those to a digital process as well, increasing, streamlining the process and saving us time as well.
I was just going to say, I think that $50,000 net increase, like you said, as you develop new processes and you eliminate other software, we're actually going to see a return on investment, and also just with staff time and efficiencies. I know working for the state, we came out of the dark ages and implemented technology over the last decade, and it's literally, like I look back and I can't believe probably 30% of my time was inefficient because of the processes that we have in place, and technology brought us up to par. So I think that's going to be awesome for staff. I guess my question would be, these processes that we're talking about, what's the ETA? What do we have like goals, and when we're going to be up and running and have, transferred over to these processes?
So it's going to be an ongoing process, because we will continually, one of the nice things is OpenGov, they're going to do a lot of the heavy lifting up front and help us get some off the ground, but they're also going to teach us how to create those new workflow processes internally. So as we come up with new ideas or new processes, we can just keep implementing new programs. And this contract allows for unlimited use, essentially, across all departments, no matter how many workflows. So initially, we will have some smaller projects done this month and up and running already, and we'll make sure that we share that with the public, what those are, once we get the ball rolling, once the agreement is approved. But then our focus is going to primarily turn to the Community Development Department to get the building permit process up and going online and get that available to our contracts and our public. That's
So
going to be
there's
our
some priority put into
Correct.
a few agencies, and it's just a comment that came to mind, and I'm sure, because you guys are much more smarter than many of us, and you guys will figure these things out. But I do know from experience at the state level is once we implemented a process, we would not go back. Like, that was a process, we move forward. That way the public, just like Supervisor Campbell was saying, that's the new process, that's the way we move forward. So I'm sure that will be discussed, but just an idea, recommendation moving forward.
So before I go to public comment, I want to ask Ms. Yaley, did you have anything you wanted to add to this?
Quincy Ely, Community Development Department Director. I just wanted to echo the efficiencies and staff time that we're going to gain from this. Probably our code compliance admin spends 50% of our time updating the public on cases. We can now do this via this new software program, so we're going to gain efficiencies and make faster progress in code compliance. And just in terms of moving the ball forward, the process has already started. Your board approved a contract for our department to scan all of our plans. 95% of the paper has left the 4th floor of the A&F building and is in the process of being scanned and indexed. This will dovetail perfectly with this new OpenGov software. So not only can they do their permitting online, they can look up their project information and history online.
Okay, at this time I'd ask if there's any public comment. There is no public comment, so I'm going to bring this back.
I'll move we approve the professional services agreement with Open.gov Incorporated in the amount of $610,735.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion from Supervisor Campbell, a second from Supervisor Kirk. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to announce that the 3/130 appointments are going to be continued to a future date. I'm not certain what that date is. Is that correct?
I thought we were going to actually call them at 1:30 because we have at least one attorney that was going to call in.
Oh,
just
that's, okay.
Okay, and then staff will explain the reason for the continuance.
Okay, thank you for that
Okay, thank you.
clarification. And so at this time, Ms. Ryan, will you please read our 2 closed session items?
Closed session item number 13, public employee performance evaluation under the authority of Government Code Section 54957B1, title Health and Human Services Agency Director. Closed session item number 14, conference with labor negotiators Tracy Riggs, County Administrator, Eric Earhart, Assistant County Administrator, Ann Fremd, Human Resources Director, and Debbie Batista, Auditor Controller, Authority Government Code Section 54957.6, all bargaining units.
Do we anticipate reporting out? No. Okay. So at this time, we are going to convene to close session, and we will, pardon? Oh, is there any public comment on either of the closed session items? No, there's not. Thank you. Thank you. So we are going to convene into closed session, and we will reconvene at 1:30. Okay, welcome back, everyone. We are back from closed session. Ms. Ryan, will you please read our 1:30 appointments?
Uh, 131, Daniel Ron Frey, consideration of an appeal of the notice and order that was issued on September 22nd, 2020 on assessor's parcel number 022-100-00-27600 Italian Bar Road regarding illegal cultivation of cannabis and other code violations. 1:30 p.m. number 2, Alyssa J. Quoto, consideration of an appeal of the notice and order that was issued on October 1st, 2020 on assessor's parcel number 071-180-043-00, no legal address, Nibra Way, Don Pedro, regarding illegal cultivation of cannabis and other code violations. 1:30 p.m. 3, Anthony Luqueta, consideration of an appeal of the notice and order that was issued on October 21st, 2020 on assessor's parcel number 022-370-010-00-27790 Italian Bar Road regarding illegal cultivation of cannabis and other code violations.
Okay, staff.
Cody Nesper is participating via Zoom, and he needs to address the board.
Are you there, Cody?
I'm here. Can you see me? Hear me?
I can hear you. There you are.
Okay, well, let's try this again. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Cody Nesper, Deputy County Counsel. I'm here on behalf of compliance. We have 3 code appeals before the board today. Code compliance is respectfully requesting that these be continued to a future date to ensure that all of the appellants have adequate notice and to ensure that their due process rights to be heard are protected. While all the appellants were sent out notices and were probably noticed of the appeals, the notices did not have remote participation instructions, and because of the COVID restrictions and the Zoom participations, we just want to make sure that everyone has an adequate opportunity to be heard. Also, in the Kuto matter, the tenants were not noticed of the violation, and that's something else that code compliance would like to ensure that the tenants have adequate notice of these violations and have an opportunity to be heard if they wish to appeal the violation as well. So in light of that, I also did want to note that code compliance has reached out to the appellants, spoke to Mr. Nielsen, who represents the Kutos in their appeal. Yesterday, he indicated he didn't object to continuing this appeal yesterday. And once the date is selected, code compliance will be renoticing the appeals, including the participation procedures in light of the COVID restriction.
Okay, so we're going to continue this item. It is not continued to a date certain. That date will be determined, and the appellants will be notified.
Correct.
Okay, and so at this time, there's no further action to take. I'm asking that as a question, and
Correct. There's no further action, just to continue the matter, so to agree to continue the matter.
all right. Thank you very much. And with that, the board meeting is adjourned.